Welcome back, OSLP family. Welcome. You are listening to Our Sleeve Life podcast presents the Lisa Lampanelli Chronicles.
Woo-hoo.
This is Kellie.
This is Mel.
And welcome back on the show, Lisa.
Lisa's with us.
Yay. Oh my God, I love this. You guys, this is like a really fun, bright spot every month or whatever, how often we do it. It's great. I love it.
I look forward to it every month. I'm like, oh, I get to talk to Lisa this week.
Yeah. She's getting more and more used to like seeing you on her screen.
Very true.
I know. It's great. It's great. It's just like so weird that, we kind of just clicked, and it's interesting because there's a lot of podcasts that are fine, and you kind of do your one appearance and you're going great, but not someone I want to hang out with forever. So I'm glad this is good for you guys too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's really cool when people are like, oh, so what do you do on your podcast? I'm like, oh, no big deal. We talk to Lisa Lampanelli.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a big deal, or at least
big deal.
We think she is.
I'm always like, I don't know if you know her, but she's like an iconic legend for comedy. And they're like, oh, we know her. I'm like, hey, you better.
Yeah, most people that I like, younger people don't know. Like, they're just
Like my niece.
Yeah, they have no idea.
She's like,
but
Well, you know what's funny is I keep bumping into, and I don't know why this is, but more and more millennials, I think, are starting to know who I was, because I'm hearing from these people I do these Instagram lives with who are around the age of 30 or so. They're like, oh, my folks let me watch you on the roasts. And it's almost like their parents had to be cool.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's really flattering. And also, I think, too, people understand that the type of comedy I did wasn't exactly woke. And now I don't do that anymore.
No, you don't.
So they can embrace the fact that people do change, and we go, okay, well, I'm going to dial it back a notch.
speaking of, so completely random, but talk about dialing it back a notch. So I found this picture of these matching shirts because we're going to Disneyland. Well, I'm going to Disneyland with my boyfriend and his two daughters.
Yeah.
And he's not a matching shirt person.
Yes.
And I found this shirt and it says, she wanted the D. And it's the Disney one.
Yeah.
And then it's on hers, it says, so I gave her the D.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Or so he gave me the D or something like that. So I was talking to Eric about it, and he was like, oh yeah, there's a big article about it because people are getting really pissed that people are wearing these shirts to Disney. And I was like, kids don't know what that means.
They don't.
And he's
they don't.
They don't.
And the fact is too, I'm shocked Disney isn't really pissed and shutting it down, because they're the most litigious bunch of people in the world. Like, you can't get away with anything with their logos.
No.
So, I mean, it'll only be a matter of time before it's a collector's item. So order that thing.
Oh, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. And I've got my Cricut.
She's like, I'm already ready to go.
Yeah.
That is
Nice.
hilarious.
And he agreed to wear that matching shirt.
Oh, good.
And I was like, that'll be really funny if they tell him to not wear that, because Zach does not do well with people telling him what to do.
Oh, he doesn't do well with authority whatsoever.
No, if you tell it, like, he will not take it off just on principle.
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay. So it would be like a personal boundary of Disney's. And you have to figure out if his boundary matched, which is such a great segue into our subject.
Exactly. Because we are going to discuss boundaries after weight loss surgery, or just in general.
Yeah.
Because
this goes for life.
It is. But I think for especially overweight people, you don't realize that you can have boundaries. With people.
Because that's what I was going to say before we started was like, not that I didn't have boundaries. I just didn't know I could say no. I didn't know that I could put up boundaries and people would still be there. I just always thought they would leave if I put up walls.
Well, and some people will.
Which has happened. Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay if your boundaries don't match your friends, your partner, whatever, family members. It's
okay.
It's totally fine.
I mean, if they're supposed to drift out of your life, they are supposed to, know?
Yeah.
And while there's sadness there usually and some kind of loss and pain and grief, it's just like, well, if that person can't respect what you want, I mean, here we are literally putting this boundary in our stomach of, it's like there's internal boundary, so we can't eat too much food.
Right.
I just did a podcast episode on someone else. I was a guest on a show, where the guy has major drug and alcohol in his past, and he's pretty famous, and he's going to announce it soon, having a podcast. And he was so, when I said to him once, I said, boy, if you could have a surgery where you could only drink 2 drinks a day, would you get it? And he's like, oh my God, absolutely. So we're basically getting a surgery where we can only eat a certain amount a day.
Yeah.
And we're doing that and enforcing it within ourselves. The least we can do is ask people who supposedly care about us to adhere to boundaries we happen to have.
Correct. And I never thought of it in that way. So I'm really glad that you said that, because it is very accurate of we made the decision to put a boundary with our stomachs. Yeah. And now we are placing that in other areas of our life, whether that be work, family, friends, coworkers,
well,
co-hosts.
I'm sure different comments and things like that. It's very interesting too, because I think when you're fat, even me being a comic and in, this kind of badass profession and with this badass persona, I still was like afraid to ask for what I want off stage. Like on stage, it was like all bets are off. You have to do what I say.
Yeah.
But I remember even being backstage and being like, oh God, that security guy is talking really loud and I have to go over my act. What do I do? And I'm like, wait, who just sold those 2,000 tickets? Was it the security guy or me? And it's not even about money, really. It's about going, wow, I'm allowed to ask for what I want. And often I think we get bitter, which I don't think we should, about having not asked for boundaries all these years. That was on us. We have to own that we didn't do the right thing for our own self-worth. And now we have to change. And sometimes people aren't used to the new us.
Oh God.
Correct.
They are so not.
I literally just went through this. And
you broke up with some girlfriends. Like 2 weeks ago.
Long-term girlfriends. Good. We went to, I did dental assisting, which many people might not know, but I actually went through a really hardcore dental assisting program, and I met these girls and we instantly clicked and we just became really, really close. And we did like Christmas things together, Thanksgiving things. Like it was very close.
It was like a family.
Yeah. And I'm realizing after the divorce, people aren't like, I'm realizing who's there and who's not. And they were absolutely not there.
Well, they weren't even there for your weight loss surgery. Like, I don't remember them texting or checking in.
No, not for the weight loss and definitely not for the podcast, which anybody who talks to me knows, like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not something you take lightly. Like this has literally become a passion, a career, and a different direction for you. And I think people are threatened by people who change.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've been threatened by people who change too. Yeah. Like I'm not immune to that.
Yeah.
So I just do resent when people fill in the blank with the new word that, now that she's skinny, she's a bitch.
Right.
Now that she's famous, she's a bitch. Now that she has money. It's like, no, I was always a bitch. I just didn't put it in the right direction, and it needs to be in your direction, bitch.
100%.
Again, the old saying, we teach people how to treat us. It's almost like we didn't notice the red flags early enough, and probably due to the lack of esteem we had in ourselves.
Correct.
So maybe with these women, they weren't always there for you, but you didn't feel worthy enough, or I didn't feel worthy enough to speak up and just get rid of them sooner. But
and up until I had surgery, we were very close. Really? And so, and I had surgery, we were busy, and then pandemic hit. So then we weren't seeing each other at all. And then the divorce hit, and long story short, they went to a pumpkin patch. We used to go every single year. It's not like I would have had time to go, but they posted pictures of the two of them going with their families. Yeah. And before me would have just been like, oh, that sucks that I wasn't invited, and I wouldn't have said anything. But I was like, fuck that. I'm going to say something. Yeah. And so I wrote, and I was like, where was my invite?
I was so proud of you. I was so excited.
That's great. And again, it's not right or wrong to write that email. Like sometimes it's just phasing somebody out. Yeah. Sometimes just noticing and going, oh, they make me feel like shit, so I guess they're not right for me.
Mhm.
So I think we have to look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, did I place the boundary correctly? So the fact that you did that and you're like, yeah, that was right for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I had to sort of get rid of friends who, you know, stayed too much in victim or drinking too much, et cetera.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have the discussion. Sometimes you just go, you know what? She's so drunk, she's going to not even notice that we're not
even
talking
there.
anymore.
Yeah, pretty
You know,
much.
So I think a lot of it is just us preserving the right relationships by spelling that shit out early.
Yeah. And, you know, again, people that know us
Mhm.
know that our journey on our weight loss means the world to us. Like, we're not taking the second chance in life lightly.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
And we
Right.
took a responsibility by creating this podcast and becoming, you know, quote unquote sponsors for people,
Mhm.
or just, you know, a shoulder to cry on, to talk to, whatever
Yep.
it be. It's very important. It's not something that is just, you know, we're sitting here talking about nothing. Like, this is
Yeah.
important work that we're
Right.
doing.
Right.
And it's funny when you can tell who cares and doesn't. Like, my husband will be like, when he sees me texting, I'll be like, oh, hey, something's going on in the Benchy chat. Like, someone's upset. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So I'm like taking care of it. But if I'm with like a different friend and they see me do that, they get mad because I'm not
Not me.
giving them like the time, you know, I'm not giving them the attention. And it's like, okay, hold on. Like, and then we have to have the conversation of like, hey, this is like what I'm dealing with. And these are important people to me. And this is a thing. And I'll be done in a second. But it's like, you can't, I had to put up the boundary in the wall of like, you can't do that to me. Like,
Yeah.
there are certain things that I need to do.
As a matter of fact, she can do it to you.
I mean, she can, yeah.
But if that's a boundary for her.
Yeah.
Mhm. If
You
she
know,
expects
so
you to
in
have
other
your
words-
full attention on
Right.
her.
Then what she has to do is in advance say, look, I get that you're really into this. I feel pushed aside. Can we take just an hour?
Mhm.
Right.
And you can put an alert on your phone. I mean, if the relationship's important enough to you and her to have that talk. But again, it's her bad for not saying something, for rolling their eyes, whatever the behavior ends up being.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I have a friend who, I mean, I would say more of an acquaintance who's, 30 years old, and that age group loves to always be on their phones. And I'm just like, I really have to say something or I have to accept it. So
Yeah,
it's one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think I chalked it up to millennial or whatever, Gen, whatever it is. I'm probably going to end up phasing this person out in a non-mean way.
Right.
Would the braver Lisa be like, dude, you got to get off that phone?
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's my bad if I get mad at him for not saying something first. So she needs to say that.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was like when I talked to this person. I was like, I just need to know.
Mhm.
Like, that's like the biggest deal with me because I like autocorrect really fast.
Mhm.
Like, I had a friend that went from Jocelyn to Josh. And then they wanted to do to be called they or them. And it was funny because when they told me that, I instantly changed within like minutes. And he's like, how did you do that? And I was like, well, you asked me to.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, but now you're actually saying they and them. I'm like, but that's what you asked me to do. So that's what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
So it's the same thing with this person. I was just like, you just have to tell me.
Yeah.
If I care about you, I will adapt and change. But I just have to know. I'm not a mind reader. I've learned that with my husband. Like, we have to talk. Communication is key.
We've learned it here.
Even here.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, and this is a business partnership and a friendship, and those are really sticky anyway.
Right.
Mhm.
So they can be, that has to be full transparency. And I remember I heard this great interview with the Duplass brothers on, I think it was Brene Brown. And they said, because they work together all the time making movies and TV shows, and they literally walk side by side and have all their big talks on hikes and look straight ahead because it's easier to say the truth when you don't have to look at each other. And they are like, we do a big hike every day, and anything hard that comes out, we just come out. And I find that's true too.
Love
I think
it.
That's
I
really
certainly
cool.
I certainly don't do the walking part because I'm a lazy bitch, but I mean, I'll sit side by side with somebody. Probably that's why a lot of times they do that in marriage counseling, sitting side by
Side by side.
But the whole thing is like, you can't be in relation with people properly without boundaries. And even if your boundaries seem silly to them, or I have a friend who some of her boundaries, they don't seem silly to me anymore, but in the beginning seemed silly. And I was like, oh, big shot. Can't talk that day on the phone because of her husband. Oh, love, I need love. And I'm like, now after a year, I'm like, yeah, that's totally cool. Like that she takes one day a week not to get phone calls so she can relax with her husband.
Yeah.
So again, was a little boundary she put up. From my trauma or whatever childhood, I'm like, oh, I felt ignored. And then you get to where you like each other enough to do that. So it's just speaking up before you hate the person, basically.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because if you don't, you're going to like build resentment.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just, every time you see this person, you're going to get upset and annoyed. And it's like, why are you even showing up then? Like, tell them what's going on. And I really like that side-by-side thing because I was telling Kelly actually a few weeks ago, I took a women's studies class in college and they talked about how men are easier to receive information side by side.
Not face to face.
Not face to face.
Yeah.
So the walks make sense. And I was telling her, like, me and Eric do our best talking when we do the long drives. I love car rides. And it's so true because I feel way more comfortable saying all of the things when I'm talking like side by side with him. Like if I don't have to see that expression on his face of disappointment, sometimes it's just easier to get it all out. And then you feel better.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really impressed with you guys having these partners and, this, guys in your life that you can actually talk to, like, and be heard and hear them. Because that's a tough one. I mean, I'm opted out of that whole thing. I was just like, okay, it's hard enough having friendships, much less intimate relationships with. So hey, I'm so boundaryless. I don't even have boundaries with my dogs. I mean, I literally have it in my head. Lisa, you're going to have to buy new rugs once a year because I never train my dogs well enough. And they're so small, it's usually not a big deal.
Right.
But we have accidents everywhere. And I'm such a pussy that I'm such a pushover. So I'm like, okay, I just really have to, my boundaries with myself of like, the rugs can only cost $50 each,
Yeah.
So again, it's as a 60-year-old woman still working on it. I think we're just going to be working on this the rest of our lives, just like with the food stuff too.
Oh yeah. And I feel like the boundaries are in every aspect. So it's not just with, people.
Yeah.
You're saying dogs. And you're saying food. Like we literally have to set boundaries with everything we do.
Yeah.
And it is not easy.
Well, it's like, it's that whole organization thing. Like you have to plan for the day. And that does include like boundaries of what you're going to be doing and who you're going to be interacting with. Because I do it with food too, all the time. I'm like, hey, I can't, like I'll allot for things like, hey, I know I'm going to have cake. So tomorrow's my birthday. So I'm going to have German chocolate cake. And I'm like, there you go. It's allotted. I know it's there and I don't care. Like, that's my boundary for tomorrow. I'm going to have my cake.
And nobody better say shit.
And I'm going to have my tequila shots and we're going to be great.
We're going to dress up.
The fact is too, like the thing is boundaries also what people forget. You can change them anytime you want.
Yeah.
So basically people think if they tell their mom, hey, please don't bring up what I eat. You could get where in a year, you don't even care.
Yeah.
Right.
Like mom could say to you, hey, did you put on weight? And you wouldn't even care. Like there's some people who do so much work on themselves and the boundaries can keep moving. You just have to keep the person informed of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I remember I had dated a lot of like nobody ever truly horrible. Like I only dated one criminal. I'm so proud of myself. And but I dated some pretty like loserish guys, and I'm sure they weren't all bad. They were just bad for me, and I was bad for them.
Right.
So I remember one time because my mother, she was like me with the big mouth. And I remember once in my 30s or late 30s, she said something like, oh, the ones you date. And all I said, like, because I wasn't very brave when it came to her, I just said, every time you say that makes me feel like a jerk for picking them. So I'd like you to not say that anymore. I was shocked I did that with my mom because she was so formidable. And she never said it again. So I was like, wow, if this woman can listen and behave differently, that's amazing. And sort of like 10 years later, I didn't care. I was shitting all over the guys. And so it was just interesting how we can change by working on ourselves. But right now, what's right for us has to be told to them.
Yeah. And I think it's, we're not mind readers. So, and other people, as much as we are allowed to have boundaries, other people are allowed to have them too.
Yeah.
But again, we're not mind readers.
Yeah, we have to communicate.
So we have to keep an open communication, because there are some things that, you know, I may do that I know that I do that drive Melanie up the freaking wall. I mean, I know that I do them. And so I try to, you know, stop those as much as possible.
Yeah.
But as long as she is open in communicating with me, hey, you're crossing that into that boundary. Oh, okay, sorry. Like, but she's communicating like there's a line here. You can't cross that.
Yeah, because after a weight loss surgery, I lost all the weight, built some confidence, and I felt like all the things I was saying inside of my head and then around like only people I was really comfortable with was now like coming out to everybody. It was like a whole nother level happened, and I got a lot of people kind of freaked out. They were just like, what's happening to Melanie? Why is she like just like telling me like it is? And it's like, well, Melanie's actually always been like that. Just she wasn't doing that shit to you. And it's like, hey, because you guys are crossing some boundaries here. And some of it was family, because they're like, you're not the same. And I'm like, well, one, I'm not gonna be the same. There's no way I can be the same.
People change and evolve all the time.
All the time.
Especially after a life-changing thing.
Yeah. And it's like, come on. And I was like, well, but here's the thing. Like, at least I'm telling you. That's what I told my mom, because that was one of the big ones, was my mom as well. And I'm like, hey, we just can't have this relationship like that anymore.
See, that's great. And again, that's the whole, now that she got skinny, she's a big shot. You know, that she's rich, she's a big shot.
Right.
But here's what we have to do as humans, I think. We have to not punish them for our lack of boundaries before.
Right.
And we have to give them time to catch up.
Yeah.
Because Bill Maher did a really great editorial a few weeks ago on his show about giving the guy in Iowa who's on the farm a chance to get in his head pronouns or transgender issues. Like, give the guy a chance to catch up, because I have misgendered people a lot just because I'm 60. And I was just like, I was on my friend's podcast the other day, and now he's a he. And he said, I never took it personally that you would say she, and then, oh my God, I'm sorry. Because you were trying and it was taking you time. So we can't take ourselves as blameless for not having boundaries before and being wishy-washy, punishing them for it and putting the hammer down and then being like, how dare you?
Right. Yes.
So we have to take responsibility for being kind of wishy-washy, but also then give them a chance to catch up. Like if mom makes a mistake and says, oh, well, the thing about cake, oh, sorry, I forgot you didn't want to talk about cake.
Yeah.
You know, then we got to give her a, hey, mom, you're trying.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Everybody wants an attaboy. You know, the guy in Ohio who's misgendering people and doesn't mean it needs to be said, hey, at least he's trying.
Well, and I think you also, when you create those boundaries, and this is the discussion I had with my mom recently about my little sister, because my little sister is she takes over. So like she'll walk into, because I live with my mom, she'll walk into our house and she'll just put clothes in the washer. She doesn't care whose is in there. She's taken over. She's going to cook her lunch. She's going to watch her TV at like 50 degrees of volume. And we're trying to work. Like I'm doing podcasts. My mom is working her job. And, you know, I've talked to my mom about it actually today. And I was like, here's the thing. You need to set boundaries. You need to say, if you're going to come into our house and you're going to do laundry, A, you need to pitch in for water. B, you need to pitch in for laundry detergent, because she does neither.
Yeah.
And it's very rude to just assume that it's fine, because does your sister live elsewhere? Oh, that's so bratty and spoiled. But guess whose fault it is? My mom's, which I told her, and she knows. She is very aware that she gives a lot of leash to Fiona.
Here's the deeper issue. Do you have any idea why she's scared of your sister?
Because Fiona she has a son. And my mom loves her grandkids more than anything. Yeah. And she's afraid that if she says something, Fiona will take Emmett away. And I told her today, I was like, but if she chooses to do that for that moment in time, because she's very, very like reckless with her actions, she just like reacts and then leaves. And I'm like, that won't last. And if it does, you set up a boundary.
Yeah.
And
I think your mom, is being held captive and like held hostage by a threat over her head.
Yep.
And again, it's just a really horrible thing to do to anyone.
It is. Yeah. But Fiona also doesn't know that my mom wants to put a boundary there. Yeah. So I told my mom, I was like, you need to let her know, like, these are my boundaries. And if you cross those boundaries, we're going to have another discussion. Because that way you're giving her leave, like, because Fiona was not going to change overnight. She's just not.
No.
But if you give her the opportunity to say, hey, these are things that I don't accept. And if you do them again, we will have another discussion.
Yep.
You're not cutting anything off. You're just literally saying, these are lines that you can't go across. And
but here's a step further.
Oh.
What is your codependency where you're trying to see if you're triangulating this, meaning you're talking to your mom's not saying anything to her, why isn't your mom taking agency of herself and you just going, none of my business?
Because I feel like she goes to me because I have always had very good boundaries with Fiona. She will do something and I'll see that's not acceptable. You need to, like, she drank all my coffee one time.
That's war.
Right?
That's hilarious.
Oh, I was like, Fiona, you replace my coffee. You do not let me run out. If you drink my coffee and it gets to the end and I wake up in the next morning and I want coffee and it's not there, you're not going to like me.
Yeah.
No,
so it was a very clear boundary. Like, if you drink my coffee, which I can share, but replace it. That's what I'm asking.
But part of me really feels like your mom is taking the easy way out by relying on you for advice, therapy. And there's something in you that loves being gone to for that, because you get to subconsciously be mommy's confidant and mommy's favorite.
I always have been her confidant. Always.
Which, by the way, isn't probably the healthiest thing.
No, it's a codependent thing.
You're not sisters. You're mom and daughter. So a lot of it is so mixed up and crazy in all of our lives, you know? A triangulation of, one person against the other. And then those two probably talk about you a little bit. And then it's all just nuts.
I'm sure they do.
Everybody's a big yenta.
Yeah.
But I think what it is just us going, mom, I think the textbook way to do it, which we're not going to do because it's just hard and maybe we'll do it someday, is, mom, if you have a problem with her, you have to say something. I can't talk to you about this anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But there's something in us that loves the gossip.
I love gossip.
It's so, I was noticing too, the friend of mine I was saying, who's always on his phone, he's a gossip and a half. And part of me says, I hate gossip. And then I'm like, I kind of like it. So we have to really tweeze out what we need from those relationships and see if we're getting it at all.
Yeah, because gossiping.
I'm sorry. We're not helping mom grow up,
right?
Because our moms. My mom definitely was less self-aware than I because of the age group didn't get therapy. So your mom is going to stay this emotional cripple who feels hostage to your sister instead of having agency for herself and going, that's not acceptable. Please leave the money on the table right now. You know what I mean?
I would love to see your mom do that.
Oh my God.
It'd be so cool.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love for my mom to just say what she thinks. But she is not, she's a people pleaser.
She's very passive.
Very passive. And woman. Even I got straight Fs my freshman year, my first semester. And it was, you need to try better.
I think I yelled at you more than your mom did.
Was your mother, did your dad leave your mom or did he die?
He was physically abusive to my mom.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of history with just the poor thing.
Yeah.
And again, we want her to be able to speak up for herself. Will she ever do it to the standards of you guys and me? Probably not.
No.
But little tiny steps maybe would help.
Yeah. And that's why I was like, just like do little things, like set little boundaries, like you don't come over until you call, or when you use the washer and dryer, you bring your own detergent, or you leave us money.
I guess I have a question for the group is, when do you know when to set a boundary? Because I know that's a big question that I get from people. It's like, how do you know when to set a boundary? Or how do you know what your boundaries are? Like, how have you guys found those?
I feel like mine are like random. Like something will happen and I will be like, no, that is no.
So you just know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You just know.
Yeah.
So I think, for instance, okay, suppose it's not me and you guys. Suppose it's some podcasting company and we're supposed to talk at 6:00.
Okay.
It's 6:20 and Emily Post, Manners book, says 20 minutes is the most you'll wait for anyone. So Emily Post has a 20-minute boundary. Suppose my boundary is like, look, 10 minutes, unless it's a great fucking excuse. It's probably not my boundary, but whatever.
Yeah.
You just kind of know it.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable at first. And it's like, oh my God, do I really actually think I like myself enough to do that and to not have my time wasted, you know? And I think it just is something that internally we feel, and then it floats up.
Yeah.
So with this guy on his phone all the time, I internally felt it. And I'm like, oh boy, now I have to have the talk.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to suck. So is my boundary, people put your phones away when you come to my house? Probably not. But is it, hey, gosh, if we're the only ones in the car, I'd really love it if you could be present.
Yeah.
And that's, why are those things so hard? They just are. So, I mean, is there anything that makes you ask the question? Is there anything you're
that's what I'm wondering.
Like, oh,
because I just remember about like when I was like transitioning from being overweight to not, like I was questioning everything. And like when I in any relationship, I was like, do I like this? Do I even music, even food? I was even like, do I really like this? Or am I just been doing this because I've been told to? Like I was trying to figure out like, what do I really freaking like? And who do I really want to hang out with? Because I was noticing some people, I would feel like, oh, I have to go do this with them. And I was like, why am I feeling that way? And so I was just like feeling it, but I didn't realize, oh, that's my like internal person telling me like I need to set a boundary and figure it out. I feel like it took me a while to figure out. And so I would say like almost like a year or two of like figuring out like, okay, who actually like makes me happy? Who in my life is giving me compliments and making me feel good about myself? And who, when I'm around, is like dragging me down and making me feel like shit? And I'm like, oh, okay, these people, they're actually really negative. Like, why am I like trying so hard to be friends with this person? And then finally like phasing them out was like almost like a weight lifted. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is about that, you know, we notice when people are an energy drain and we keep trying to make it work. It's the little girl who's keep trying to get daddy's attention and we're going to make that work whether it kills us. And then it's like, oh, it's going to kill us because they are not right for me. So I don't like the word, I think we might have talked about this, toxic people. There aren't, 90% of the world is not toxic.
No.
They're toxic for us and we're toxic for them. Like I'm sure there's 8,000 people walking around the world saying Lisa Lampanelli's toxic. For them, I am. That's okay.
Right?
You know what I mean? They're not right for me. The 2 people I downsized after COVID are definitely decent human beings, but they're toxic in my life.
Right.
And I'm sure I eventually would have been for them, or if I wasn't already and, you know, had been phased out by them. So I think we were so used to not asking for what we wanted because we had such shame around weight and other issues, whether it's poverty or lack of education or whatever we grow up with, race issues, I'm sure. I mean, I guarantee it's harder for someone of a different race to stick up for themselves because they're afraid.
Yeah.
So when you're fat, you will take what you're given. And that's obviously a generalization, but it seems to be how we were, at least. I mean, I would be afraid to like ask for something on a plane, and I was fucking famous. Like, and I was still afraid to ask for shit. I'm like, I can't ask for peanuts even if I'm starving because I'm freaking fat. So they're going to say, I have I was at a show about a week ago, my friend's comedy show, and like there was a couple who was very large. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, I remember how you don't even feel like you deserve to order food back then. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I was just sitting there going, I hope they're ordering what they want. Mm-hmm. And I hope they're just eating that and having that as a boundary they have is like, hey, if we're going to go out, we're going to eat like humans and not act like we're on a diet the whole time. So yeah, it's all that undoing of the crap that we accepted before. And the fact that it only took you like a year to phase people out, I think that's amazing. That doesn't sound like a long time to me.
No.
Well, I guess for me, it was like, I worked out for 2 years like crazy. And then after that, I started really, so I guess like 3 years into the process, I probably took me to do it. But like, it was hard because I'm like, I don't want to like just lose a friend because I lost weight. Because then also like, people were like, oh, you're just not going to talk to us now because you're skinny or you have all this self-esteem up and like just being like thinking that I'm just going to be gone. And so I was trying to be like present as much as possible. But then it's like, wait, hold on.
Why does it matter?
Yeah. Like, why are we doing this to each other?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah. And they're going to think that anyway. If they're not right for you, they're going to think, oh, she got big headed all of a sudden. Oh, big shot. Oh, now that she's this. So we can't control what they think. We never will. We'll never win anyone over. Yeah. We just have to just be ourselves. And if they fade away, I remember when I was working at my last day job and I had just done my first open mic and I was so excited because I was like, oh, I'm going to be a comic. Like I could just tell from early on, first time on stage, I go, oh, this is going to happen. But you know, it's going to take forever, but I know. And I noticed these 2 women at work who I was really good friends with weren't eating with me anymore because I was all enthused about the comedy. You know, I did this open mic and that. Hey, is it possible part of it that I was an endless font of information about this and monopolizing the conversation? Probably that was part of it. But instead of them saying, hey, can we talk about what's going on at work instead? They kind of would always sneak off without me. And I was like, oh shit, this is like a lunchroom where you're eating alone.
Oh no.
So it's interesting how you get better, but you do kind of have a part in it too.
You do. You do.
You know, but their bigger part possibly could have been to just tell me, gosh, could you take it down a notch? We'd love to talk about something else.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody wants to hear about weight loss and podcasts, right? They just don't. But the people that love us and accept us will say, hey, let's talk about something else today. 100%. Or what else is going on in your life? You know, like questions like that. Like, I know that people don't want to talk about the podcast 24/7. But that's a big thing in my life. It's either divorce or podcast for like the last year. That's been it.
True story.
Yeah. I mean, I get it because those things are so important to us, you know, like if I didn't do my podcast once a week and talk to those guys about everything and this big issue we have every week, I'm just like, I feel like, who the fuck am I going to tell them about that? Because it's heavy stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want to always call your friends and be like, let's talk about grief again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think once you find a true friend who gets it and gets how to steer the conversation a little bit, then they're kind of showing you boundaries without having to say, I have a boundary. We can only talk 10 minutes about your grief or your weight loss. And you just kind of hear it in their voice. You go, oh, okay, let me be a little self-aware that I might not be the only important one in this conversation.
Right. Yes. And it's really hard for podcasters to do that, by the way, because you are so used to talking about what you talk about.
I don't know about that. I don't want to put that on all podcasters.
No, but
because I don't at all. Like, because so our tattoo artist does our logo, right?
Yeah.
And I play fantasy football with her and her husband. And I just saw them a couple nights ago. And she gets on the mic. She's all, Melanie, why have you not told me what's going on with the podcast? Like, you have Lisa Lampanelli on and all these things. Like, she literally was listing things. And I was like,
it was because I went and saw her and I told her everything.
And I was like, I go, girlfriend, I don't really talk about myself and what I'm doing. Like, I'm literally like just wanting to know, what have I missed out on your life? So I'm like, I don't ever express it. So it's like, Kelly does it for me. I don't have to tell people.
But that's an interesting dynamic too, of the one who doesn't feel like they're worthy of saying what's going on.
Yeah, I don't. Now that I don't feel worthy, I feel I don't like to dominate a conversation. And I also like listening. I very like to I'm an observer. I really like to listen to people, kind of see where they're going with things. And then I'll give my little 2 cents in here and there, crack a joke, make people laugh.
Well, I think I'm not going to accept that.
Diagnose me, Lisa.
I think people who I've met like that, this might not be you. You might be the 1 in a million who's not. Don't feel they are worthy of a voice in normal life. Okay. So I had a friend who she would be more like you, which is fine. And I would go, dude, stop with the questions. Are you interviewing me? So at some point people want to learn about you. Right. And she then started opening up more and she goes, oh my God, I do go into interview mode when I'm uncomfortable sharing about myself. And I said, okay, that's cool that you noticed that. That's cool. And I like the even exchange more. So maybe it's not you at all. Maybe you just are a reporter in disguise. Well, and maybe just say to yourself, I wonder why I held back and didn't say that. Did I think they were going to be bored? Right. Did you end run the conversation? So that's the whole funny thing is noticing what we do, why, and maybe sometimes it's not a big deal. Maybe sometimes I'm going to throw a little more info about me and see if they like it.
And here's my 2 cents about Anne-Marie. Is that she called you out.
She did. Oh, I love Anne-Marie for that shit.
So she legit wants to know what is going on with the podcast. Yeah. So that really is nice. One relationship that you can freely talk about whatever you want to talk about.
It was pretty cool to see because it's kind of like what you're saying is for my deal is that because I do go in an interview mode when I feel a little uncomfortable, but also I want people to ask me questions. I don't like to just I don't like to overindulge. So I'm just if you ask me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. But I also don't know what I should be telling you. So I'm
whatever the fuck you want.
It's like a weird boundary I'm trying to play where I'm trying to figure out where do you lie with me? And because only certain people are going to get certain information from me and know things about me. Because I am very personal because before the podcast, maybe 10 people knew I had weight loss surgery. It was very low. Yeah. Okay. I don't post on Facebook or Instagram until we did the podcast. I feel weird doing it. I'm who cares about my face? I don't why am I posting it? This feels so awkward and foreign to me. And so now, because she's taught me, Kelly's no, people do care. They want to know, it's good. It's totally fine. I'm slowly realizing it's okay to share.
Well, after I agreed to do the podcast, my first question to her was, Mel, people are going to know you had weight loss surgery now, right?
Yeah, this is kind of a big way to announce it.
Right.
And what's wild too, though, what I love that you said, though, is that you just figure out who you feel safe with.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
There's, even family members that I don't feel safe talking about certain things with. So I kind of just leave it out. But then you got the friend you feel safe talking about work with and the one you feel safe about everything and the one about this and that. And I'm going, this is really cool because we get to go as slow as we want, figure out a safe person and how much we should share.
Yeah.
And chances are you're probably always going to err on the side
of caution,
of not being boring.
Yeah.
And you're not going to say overshare. So you're probably going to worry about it more and it's probably never going to happen where they're probably oh, shut the fuck up. But somebody like me, half the time they're saying shut the fuck up. And I'm just I don't care because I'm so interesting.
That's me to a T.
I say just experiment with telling little bits to little people and see how it feels. It might feel cute with some and, maybe get over some of the, gosh, I can't tell anybody anything. And they shouldn't have to pull it out of you because eventually people aren't human can openers. They don't like having a pry out. I always, that's why I even brought it up to that friend of mine who was always in interview mode. I was I want to know as much about you as you know about me. It's just not fair.
Yeah.
So, and also you're not boring. If you were boring, I'd be yeah, it's best you just shut up. But you have insight and things to say. So there's nothing wrong with kind of making it equal.
She wouldn't be on episode 3 with us if you were boring.
That's true.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true. I
you like cute girls. I love what you're doing. Take care. Bye.
Well, and that's the deal. Is like, I don't think that I'm boring. It's definitely the I keep you at arm's length until you're not at arm's length anymore. It's like just because I have been burned, even from like being a kid, like you just watch family members just do nasty things to each other
and use that information against you.
And that's the deal. There's always a tit for tat in my family. Like if I do this for you, then you have to do that for me. It's always been that way. And so that's what I grew up with. So it's kind of like I remember telling that was the first boundary with my mom. It's like, why does it always have to be that way? Can't like I just do something for you and you don't have to give back, or vice versa? Can't you give me something without me being like have to take you to X, Y, and Z place now or give you some cash? Like this just doesn't make any sense to me. But that's how I was raised. And so it's like, I don't like, I'm afraid if I give out too much information, they're going to need something out of me. And it's just, nope.
Yeah. But
what's wild that we know where the patterns come from. So that's the first step in changing anything.
Yeah.
So if we know that we tend to not put up solid boundaries till it's too late and we yell at them, we go, let me wait. When I hear that thing bubbling up inside, when I feel that thing, it's time to at least write it down and say, I'm going to have to talk to that person, or at least it's out there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I think you do know more than you think you know about when and where to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just when it feels just like ick.
Yeah.
Like when it feels that was weird. Like I don't like that. I remember once again, these security guard stories, I don't know where they're coming up, but this guy made a joke about something I said on a roast, and it was like insulting to me.
Oh.
He's there to watch the dressing room. So in other words, he didn't mean it insulting because it was just a joke I had said, but it still was sexual. And I thought that was weird. So I didn't be an asshole and scream at him. I just went and I said to the head of security, I don't really feel like I want to be around that guy. Personally, he didn't do anything horrible. Just, could you switch them out?
Yeah.
And I was like, it doesn't really matter what he thinks.
No.
And that was scary. That was hard, but we have to do it and go, ooh, nobody died. Right. So most of the time when we do a boundary, it's like, oh, look, nobody died. This was great.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Nobody died, guys.
Yeah. I mean,
it's okay.
Right after the divorce, I lost a very, very good friend of mine because she did some very shitty things after my divorce and gave information to my ex. And it was just not a good situation. She crossed some
boundaries.
She crossed some major boundaries. And this was before I knew I was allowed to have boundaries. Because it took me a while before I felt like I was comfortable putting those up. But she wrote me an email, which I don't like that. Like, just have a conversation with me.
I think it's a coward way out. That's
it is.
That's
just because I called her and I was like, hey, so I know you did this. I know you did this. I know you did this. These things are not okay. So she had nothing really to say about it except for to send me an email. And she went through this whole story about how when we were in somewhere, we had traveled together, she cried every night because all I could talk about was what size I was. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not how it went down. But if that was your perception, I'm sorry. That's not what because she's a plus size woman.
Sure.
And she is not willing to give up food in order to be a healthier person. She can complain that she's overweight all she wants, which I did too. So I get it.
Yeah.
But I literally was just like, I'm not going to discuss this anymore because you did some really shitty things to me. And you can send me an email and I that's fine. I hope that helped you. But I'm setting a boundary as I'm done.
Yeah.
Because
that's
I can't
great.
Trust you anymore.
No, when the trust is gone, I mean, it's really hard to rebuild that. And also we have to just kind of work towards it not having to be completely over with people.
Yeah.
You know, like if my friend who had said she doesn't take calls on Sunday, if I'd have been like, well, that's unacceptable. If you're a friend, you can talk to me 24/7. It's not worth losing somebody over that one, you know?
Right.
So if we can just like, hey, I would love to get off this call and be like, okay, I'm going to call this friend and say, gosh, I don't like the way you get on your phone all the time. And I don't like that you never chip in the money. And I don't like this. And I don't like the gossip. In a perfect world, I would do that. Will I be brave enough to do it today? Probably not.
Right.
But but at least it's percolating around there.
It's little steps. You got to take and it's all like mental.
It really is.
It's like you can't like tiptoe around it when you're talking to the other person. You have to be, in my opinion, very direct and say, this is not what I want. But it mentally, like you have to take these little steps of like, okay, what would I like? I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like little baby steps.
Yeah. I think Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, we can't just change who we are overnight. And I think also it's like, what would I like somebody to say to me? You know, I would like somebody to say, you know, gosh, I really like your friendship. But, you know, I don't like that we seem to interrupt each other all the time. So work on that. Even when we have people from the past who we didn't have boundaries with, saying to them, I realized I was so wishy-washy in the past. Like I should not have been so low self-esteem that I didn't ask for boundaries, but that has changed. So sorry I was like that. I'm sorry I was a doormat that didn't help you relate to me. And I really can't hear talk about ... So we have to kind of own that we used to be kind of shitheads and go, well, they didn't know. And they loved it. A lot of people love when you're boundaryless because you'll give them money, you'll give them time, you'll give them attention when they're not doing anything back. But now we have to explain that we're not that person anymore without the anger yet, because we could do it before the anger sets in.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've both gone through friendships where it was like needy all the time and it was high stress all the time. And we dealt with it because we're like, well, we've been friends with them forever.
You just think like,
that's just them.
We're just gonna be friends with them forever because they're just friends. We didn't realize like, oh, you can just not be friends.
you can literally just slice that off or say, I'm not going to accept these behaviors anymore.
Yeah. Or you can say things like, oh, I've only got 10 minutes.
Oh, that's a good one.
10 minutes. You know, the proper way to vent, they say, I've read about venting is, you know, you call someone, and this is just when you want to vent about something and not have any answers and just let it out and go, you know, do you have 5 minutes to listen to a vent? Sure. Or no. And they say, okay, give me a call when you have some bandwidth. And then the person's supposed to just forget everything you said because you're ranting and raving about stuff that you just literally the anger comes out. So you're going to say, I hate this one. I hate that one. I want to kill my mother. I want to kill my dog. You know, they have to forget that or else it's like, oh my God, I have a potential killer on the loose. But yeah, it's like explaining to them and asking permission to, you know, vent to them or be angry. Like if your friend, you know, every time you see that phone number, oh, this one's the one that always talks for the hour about the husband or the ex-husband, you go, hey, gosh, you know, I need to talk about my ex. Oh, I got about 10 minutes. Go.
Yeah.
But
no, I like that.
Yeah. If you don't have the 10 minutes, don't do the 10 minutes at all.
Right.
And by the way, there's just some people who've got to go because nostalgia keeps us in a lot. And a lot of people love to use that big excuse, making themselves look good. Like, but I'm just loyal. And like, there's a reason there's a term loyal to a fault because it's a fault at that point where that person treats me like garbage, but I'm just loyal. No, nobody feels sorry for you. Like they shouldn't be in your life anymore. And the nostalgia of the good old days, the high school days, the college days, it's good to have the memories. And then, it doesn't serve you anymore. And it's sad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be sad when somebody leaves or even if you cut someone off, there's going to be loss.
Yeah.
So it's just dealing with that.
Yeah. And realizing that it's okay. It's okay for you to change it up and say these are not okay, or to just say it's time to say goodbye. This doesn't really work for us anymore.
Well, and what I really liked when I was watching Whitney Cummings's podcast, Good For You. So they talked about how like people are like chapters, like they're in the books, you know, like it's okay for them to be like this chapter or even this paragraph and realizing friendships can be just a few chapters. And I'm like, oh my God, that like hit a light bulb with me. Cause I was like the one woman that like I've been friends with for over 10 years, like we're not friends anymore. I'm like, but you know what? She served her purpose. Like that was I probably served a good purpose for her. And that was our time frame together. And they really are like books. Like, it's just like, here's a chapter of my life. We had a lot of fun And I was like, this is a great way to like understand it, because when you grow up, you just think like, oh, these people will always be there. And then you don't know what to do when they're not there. And you're like, no, that's okay. Like you still live and they're just a part of your life. And
well, you have those good memories still.
Of
like
course.
I can still look back and be like, yeah, I had a great time in Mexico when I went with the people that I'm no longer friends with.
Sure.
Like I had a great time.
Yeah.
But I know that it was not sustainable.
Right.
Within who I am now.
Yeah.
You know, my a former shrink of mine, who, by the way, I had to have a boundary with and break up with.
Oh.
Yeah. I tried to cancel. I'm not a big canceler of those things because I don't think it's right, because it's, you know, a lot of money and that's them doing a loss. But it was during COVID and I was like, my mom was sick and I was feeling shitty and I was just like, just can't do this today. And she goes, well, I'm going to have to charge you anyway. And I said, well, I get that, but you know, here's what's going on. Yeah, well, that's my policy. So she had a strict boundary and I had one right back. And I said, well, I guess we can't work together anymore. And the thing is, I don't hate her. Yes, I had resentment. I was like, you know, said to the friend who introduced me to her, I said, boy, that one with her fucking boundaries. She goes, I've never met people with stronger boundaries than the two of you. Again, like, did I like it? No. But she actually taught me such a huge lesson when I started with her, because she goes, the 5 most important words, and this is just boundaries. That doesn't work for me. Like literally, it's not even placing a judgment on what the person's asking. That doesn't work for me. I was offered to do a podcast appearance on it could have been very bro-y. It was a podcast that had too much bro energy and could have been pretty like icky for me and like too jokey and dirty. And yeah, I mean, I'm tough. I could do that, but I don't do that anymore. And I just literally send in a thing. Oh, that doesn't work for me. And I was like, that's badass. Because sometimes just saying no, yes, no is a complete sentence. I love that. It's so hard to just say no. Like that's hard to leave it hanging there. I'm still, no, I don't want to. I love.
That's the way I am.
That's tough. It's like, nah, I don't want to.
No, but
I used to be like, I'd rather kill myself than do that. Like I literally would be like, I'd rather eat a gun. But now, I mean, her advice was great. That doesn't work for me. I'm like, wow, friendships that can apply to family relationships, activities. I'm like, pretty much true. If it doesn't work, why are we doing it?
One is the whole keep it simple. Like that is such a simple sentence that is very powerful though.
It is. Because how do you come back from that?
Yeah.
Like you don't. If that doesn't work for you, then
yes. And if this guy had said, what about that doesn't work for you? I could have either shared with him. It doesn't seem to have the right energy for me. Take care. Take care is a nice big one of, you know, this discussion is over.
Peace out.
I wish you nothing but the best. That's a big one for me. Yeah. And I guess you guys know when I have boundaries with you, because I'll be like, well, being on this podcast does not work for me. And I wish you nothing but the best. You'll be like, bitch, you already told us your secrets.
I know. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on with Lisa? I'd be calling Kelly right away. I'd be like, what the fuck just happened?
But I mean, speaking of that, like we've had to put boundaries up with people that we work with lately.
Oh yeah.
Of the fact that our time is valuable. And it does not work for us. Like how I use that, for you to not respect that.
Yeah.
100%.
If you say you're going to call.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to text. Like
I cannot. I hate. My brother had said to me once, because he was a ESPN editor and he's just really badass, but he always cares about every letter on me too, every punctuation mark. Like we were journalists, so we were fucking anal about this. And he'd always say to me, I'd go, God damn it, this one with this mistake and that mistake. And he'd be like, no one's ever going to care as much as we do.
Yep.
And you meet people like yourselves who do, like my podcast guys, you gotta really care about it. And go with people who do care.
Yeah.
You know, I had to do boundaries this week with, oh my God, I haven't even plugged my podcast. But Losers with a Dream, listen to it. It's fucking great.
Yes.
My 2 partners are these guys, Bo and Nick, and they're 32 and 28. And I had to say to one of them this week, I gotta say, I'm really mad at you the past 3 days. Like very calmly.
Yeah.
Because he had sensed it because it's pretty easy to sense for me. And he's also very aware because of being in AA and different programs. He knows that he needs to take accountability. And I said, yeah, you know what? I appreciate the apology, but I've been pretty mad and I'm going to tell you why. And it was just so great because I was like, I suddenly, from that one conversation, he stepped it up in the last 3 days to care about my podcast with him as much as I do.
Aww.
And I've been getting constant texts. Do I think it'll last forever? We all slack off a bit.
Yeah.
And then a gentle reminder is a boundary. It's like, oh, remember you said you'd post this thing every day at such and such a time? Just a reminder.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, wow, I don't even have to be mad at people if I have boundaries. Like, it's so cool to not have to go through like pissed off all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot more calmer.
We had one, she was mad at me, I was mad at her. Like it was a mutual just mad.
Yeah.
And we had gone through like several recordings. No, it wasn't even recordings. So we were doing other stuff. And like you could feel.
I could feel it. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now?
And we literally like left our phones upstairs. We were down in the studio and we were just like, okay, let's get this, like, let's have this out. And like, let's have a conversation.
Yep.
And it was, as soon as we got it all out there, we were like, okay, now we can be best friends and co-hosts again.
Yeah.
You know what? You're so right because you notice it. And that's the thing, it was so funny because I had, of course, triangulated. It was so bad of me. I betted it too. When I was angry with Bo, I called Nick the night before and I just go, oh, so I guess nobody wants to work? And he's like, oh, what happened? And I go, I'm motherfucking everybody. And I go, you know what, Nick, me and you, we're fucking professional. We're going to meet tomorrow at the diner. We're going to go over all this fucking social media shit and this TikTok and all this shit and fuck Bo. So all of a sudden, when Bo calls me to apologize and we have this nice talk and I said, yeah, I've been angry. And I go, me and Nick are meeting to talk about social media stuff. And he goes, so you're meeting without me? And I go, you're being punished, but don't worry. We'll meet with you Saturday and put you up to date. He goes, I'd probably just distract you anyway. I go, yeah, you're kind of fucking distracting. So, but it's so funny because you just got to get it out.
You do. You do.
And again, Nick is the type to forget everything I said. It was just a vent. We all came back together. But I'm like, you can't record a podcast with people if you didn't get that out of the way first. Thank God that got out of the way by Wednesday.
Well, and I don't feel like you can have a truly emotional connection with your co-host or co-hosts if you don't have moments like that. I mean, me and Mel spend probably 4 or 5 days every week together.
Yeah.
Like
a lot of time.
There's no way not one of us is going to get mad ever.
Right.
Like that's not realistic.
I mean, I get where they could never get mad at me because I'm so perfect. But well, you know what? I have to watch too. I mean, I have to be very, it used to be with all my opening acts, it used to be, look how much I'm doing for you. And even if it wasn't said out loud, it was like, why aren't you getting me Diet Cokes? Why aren't you doing this? Why? Like in my head, I'd be like, this fucking asshole, I'm taking him on tour.
Yeah.
You think you'd ever play a club or a theater without me? And in my head, I'm like, why can't they run and get me lunch? Like, how about you just ask them?
Yeah.
Be more than happy to. So yeah, with the podcast partners or touring partners or whatever, it's like, oh my God, we just have to say what we mean and mean what we say and don't say it mean.
Exactly. Because that's actually what I think was awesome about our like little, I don't know what you call that, spat, I guess.
Yeah.
Was that like when we would talk, we never yelled. Like even when she said something to me, I was like, in my head, like, hey, wait, hold on. What did she say? Okay, well, how do I need to respond? Because like I felt the at first, like because you can feel that in the back of your throat, in your head, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna say
and
something
you get
real
heated, and you get like you're like, oh, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
In my head, I was like, no, Kelly has a point. I need to say like X, Y, and Z back to her, and that way she knows that like we can have this free form conversation without judgment. Because I think that's also what's scary about boundaries is you get really scared to tell someone because you're afraid of the reaction you're gonna get. Because I know I was telling a girlfriend before because she'd be like, my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that, da, 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 da. And I was like, well, have you talked to him about it? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, do you know how he feels about it? And she's like, we don't talk about that stuff. And I was like, well, then maybe you probably should. To be honest with you, because I would be so scared to tell Eric anything for a while, like of just like emotional things, you know?
Sure.
And after a while, once I told him, I worked it up in my head about how he was going to respond.
As we all do.
Yes.
Right? We all do it. And then like I told him and he did not react how I thought he was. And it's funny because I was like, huh. And he's all, you didn't think I was going to act like that, did you? And I was like, no, I did not. He's all, think about it. It's okay.
I love how we write their lines for them in our head.
Yep.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because boundaries, you know, bringing them up, like you say, it's hard, but it's like, it's harder to lose the relationship
because you didn't say anything.
We didn't speak up.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, really like where you go, do I really want to lose this person totally without giving this a shot of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't talk about that subject or whatever it is.
Right.
And we want to sort of triage it before we lose the whole thing.
Well, and give people a benefit of the doubt. Like that was my biggest thing is like, you don't know how they're going to react. Cause every time I have like thought of like this whole workup thing in my head, oh my God, I've been like just not exactly at all. Like it's just been like totally failure. Like they've reacted to actually normally way better, like super awesome and chill. And I'm like, fuck, man, that was just all in my head.
I talked to Zach about that the other day because me and Mel took a day and I was supposed to meet up with him or something, but we ended up shopping. Like we just needed a day of just the two of us, nothing podcast, just like being friends. And so we went and we shopped and I remember it vividly because we were in Victoria's Secret. And I was like, and he calls and I'm like, so we decided to go shopping again or like still. We'll, I mean, I don't know how much longer, but it shouldn't be too much longer. Like I'm like trying to make it like better because I'm expecting him to be just like pissed, which I don't know why, because he doesn't get pissed like that.
Well, your ex did though.
My ex definitely did. And Zach was like, have fun. Like he wasn't understanding like my panic moment.
Yeah.
And so after we talked and he was like, I went home and took a nap. I don't care. Like go shopping.
Half the time, by the way, the guys really want us out of the house. I mean, I do not blame them. We can be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like, it's very interesting how we blow it up in our head because of our history.
Yeah.
Or see mom and dad acted or whoever raised us. And it's like, oh, I'm just projecting this onto this poor guy who's like, I'm perfectly happy watching TV for a while. Take care.
Yeah. He was totally fine. He's like, just so you know, you don't have to worry about me getting mad if you're going to like go shopping or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thanks. Like, I was like, I could breathe again because I was in full, like, let's make this better. Like, I don't know how to explain to him that we're taking way longer than I thought we were going to. But I needed the day. And he obviously realized that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he did. He was nice. Eric was nice. Like they both were like, yeah, we don't care.
Yeah.
It's
totally like, have fun.
Do your thing.
Bring us food.
That's really hard.
Exactly how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's supposed to be everybody's independent and then interdependent too. So, I mean, hey, I think this is great. I think we're on the road to wellness.
I think so too.
We're going to be so strong and boundaried, and it just doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really good to realize these things within ourselves, but also like you brought up some really good points. Mel brought up some really good points that like I can definitely use in my day-to-day life because it's really hard to put up a boundary. It's really fucking hard. But take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and you'll know when the time is right, I think.
I'm totally going to use.
Also, a really important thing is to remember that other people have boundaries with us and we find it hard to respect those.
Yeah.
So we have to work as hard at maintaining their boundary and helping them with that as we do with our own. Because I'm a boundary breaker and a half sometimes. And it's like, stop it. That's not cute. It's not cute. Nobody likes that.
Yep.
Nope, really not.
You're thinking of something, aren't you?
No, I'm just, that's me in a nutshell. I like to like, hi, there's your boundary. Okay, I'm going to peek over, see where the other side is because.
I know. And, I'm trying to be so respectful because Nick and Bo, Bo has a girlfriend now.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
And he's so happy. So I try to because we post little quizzes and stuff on Fridays and Sunday nights, and I'll try to get them to them by 5 in case they have a date at night and this and that, or I try to say in advance if I can't. So I have to walk this line between, going, fuck you, you have no career yet. You have to do your best every 24/7, losers with a dream. How dare you? Going, they really need love too. They need girlfriends. What are we doing? I have to respect that. Nick is not going to answer the phone after 10 at night because he literally has to get up at 4:30 because he's a personal trainer. You just accept boundaries and you go, okay, why would I get mad at that?
We should respect that.
Yeah.
If we're expecting them to respect our boundaries, we have to respect their boundaries because they're not going to be the same, at all.
Well, it's a two-way street.
It is.
That's the deal. It's a give and take. And if you don't want to, that's how you know that relationship isn't for you. If you're not willing to do it.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh.
Yes, we've learned a lot, bitches.
We did,
I know.
course.
I'm so excited.
Our session with Lisa, we learned so much.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if you're look, guys, one of my boundaries is I don't like to be called a bitch. So if you could stop that, I'd be part of me internally, of course, I would be oh, what a cunt. No, no, part of me would be rolling my eyes and then going, she probably has some trauma associated with that word. So I'm going to do that. And you eventually get to where,
it's true.
Why am I going to judge if somebody doesn't like something they don't like? I remember my poor dad. My dad hated cursing. He hated even any word like pregnant. He couldn't even say. He was such a gentleman, He's so old-fashioned. Yeah, he was she's in the family way. And I was oh, he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
I can not do that at his house.
Yeah.
I can at home and stage do whatever I want. But let me it is their house.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be fine. I think we're all works in progress, but we're killing it.
We are. We're getting there. And if anybody has any questions about boundaries or wants to tell us their stories, let us know.
Yeah, message us. You know where we're at.
Yeah, because I love to hear boundary stories because it really helps create my own boundaries because I realize oh, maybe that's not cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, peeking over I do, that's bound to happen. So I like to know what other people think.
Well, because with you, it's funny. You push your own boundaries.
Oh, I 100%
she
do.
Pushes so hard. And I'm why are you pushing? You're just hurting yourself, my friend.
I panic.
A lot of it with us is that rebel part that we think is helpful. And it's, say we know how much we have to eat. And those extra 3 bites are going to make us physically feel disgusting. The rest, literally floating up the rest of the night. Who are we rebelling against?
Ourselves, our stomach, our boundary, our stomach boundary.
Okay, I just hurt myself. Great. I'm a rebel without a clue.
Yep. Me and Zach do it. We'll sit and we'll be eating and I'll be oh, I'm so full. And he'll be yeah, me too. As he's reaching for another bite and I'm don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to hurt. And then he'll do the same to me. It's a back and forth thing.
I just look at Eric. I'm why are you trying to hurt yourself, man? What are you doing now?
I should probably say that now.
I realize I don't like pain at all. So I'm always
you do not.
I don't so if I go to do that, I'm why? No. Because I really I don't know what it is about pain. I just don't like it at all.
I handle pain very well.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all. You are you have a high pain tolerance.
I do.
I'm
that's why when I say I'm in pain, Mel knows it, oh shit, she's in pain.
Yeah, the text this morning was fuck back. It was all fuck.
Oh, yeah. It's that pain tolerance is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a really variable. I usually go a bite or 2 beyond and then I'm sitting there going, oh, great. Now I can distract myself from actually working on my real fucking feelings and replace it with working on how sick I feel. So I know what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know. And I think, first step is acknowledging it. Yeah. Hopefully we can change some of that shit. So
awareness is key.
This will lead to more discussions with the 3 of us.
Hell yeah.
Yes. We got to pick a topic for next month. So if you guys have any ideas on that too, send it to us.
Yeah. Because we were supposed to do, Yeah, we're not going to tell you. We were supposed to do a topic that I do have written down, so we won't tell you what it is. But I'll remind the ladies.
Yeah.
Send us other topics. Yeah, that'd be
put it in the comments section because we look at those, we respond to those right away. So we'll set up a whole list.
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
Yeah. Or you can go over to our website, oursleevelifepodcast.com, and we have a contact us form.
Yes, we do.
And you can type in whatever message you want to send to us.
Yeah. And
hopefully it's nice.
And while you're there, pick up Kellie's shirt. Because look, we have Halloween shirts.
So cute. I love those.
Yeah. Mel's favorite Disney princess is Belle, and mine's Ariel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we wore for Halloween this year.
Yeah.
Mine's Areola. She's got big tits and a tight box. Anyway.
That's my kind of girl.
Absolutely cut that out. But if you guys enjoy Lisa Lampanelli and her drilling down all the problems of today with the two millennial men, you may listen to my podcast called Losers with a Dream, available everywhere. It is going to drop every Tuesday from now on till the end of time. Maybe I will be 80 years old and I'll still be doing it.
Let's hope so.
Be lucky.
Yes.
That's right. And that will be tagged also in the description. So go click on that and go watch them because they are hilarious.
Yes. And if you would like to watch this episode.
Where do they go, Kellie?
They go to our, first off, you can go to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
And don't forget to subscribe. Click that little bell.
That's right.
And then where else can they go, Mel?
They can go to patreon.com/OSLP and get your exclusive content because you get this 10 days earlier than everybody else. And you can be part of the Benchies, our support group that I was talking about earlier in the podcast. You get to hang out with me and Kel all day long. And then if you get the $10 tier, you get an exclusive episode every week from us. It's like 20, 30 minutes of us just shooting the shit about random things that happen throughout the week. So come hang out with us. And we love you guys.
Yay.
And we will see you
next time. Bye.